Champions Mojo is part of the CG Sports Network.
Welcome to Champions Mojo, a podcast to bring out your inner champion. Your hosts are sisters-in-law Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker. Kelly is a former Division I head swim coach, Olympic trials qualifier, and holds national and world records in masters swimming. Maria holds world records in endurance cycling and won the world's toughest bike race, Race Across America. Both are certified health and life coaches. Our goal is to inspire you through conversations with champions. And now, your host, Kelly Pallas.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast, where today we are going to chat with one of the nation's best coaches who is creating an East Coast swimming dynasty at UVA, and that's Todd DeSorbo. As usual, I'm co-hosting with Maria Parker. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Kelly. Wahoo wah.
Don't say it yet. Yeah, Maria's a UVA grad. We'll get to the little rivalry we have going on here on our co-hosting. But before we give a lot of background on Todd, let's just welcome him to the show as he sits there. Hey, Todd, welcome.
Welcome, Todd.
Hey, wahoo wah.
That's right.
So Todd is the head coach of the University of Virginia men's and women's swimming and diving programs. And in less than 3 years at UVA, Todd has created a women's team that would very possibly have won the NCAA Championships that did not occur in 2020. And jumping from an already amazing finish the year before in his first year, the school finished sixth at the NCAAs for the women. And the men's team was equally impressive in the NCAAs in 2019, finishing in the top 10 when the year before they didn't even score a point. So Maria, can you tell us a little bit more about Coach Todd's success?
Sure, Kelly. Todd's coached multiple Olympians, national champions, and NCAA All-Americans. During the 2019-20 season, the UVA women won their 16th ACC title and second ACC title under Todd, while setting an ACC record for most points scored at the conference championships. It earned him the 2020 ACC Women's Swim Coach of the Year. That same year, the men's team finished second at the ACC Championships, recording the program's best finish since 2013. With the current freshman class and next year's incoming class highly ranked as some of the best swimmers in the nation, it's going to be so fun to watch the UVA program's success.
Yes, Maria. As a couple of girls born and raised in Virginia, we are so thrilled to speak with Todd today. And Todd, I want to start out with just sharing with our listeners my own experience in how we met. And I think it gives a little background into what an amazing person you are. So, you know, we started off joking, Maria is a UVA grad and I'm an NC State grad. And of course, most people know you coached at NC State for 6 years before you got the UVA program and had a lot of success there. And it was so fun to watch what you did there with the NC State teams. And I wanted to share with you how important you were in just the life of an alum, because I would go to a lot of meets. You know, I'm very involved in swimming, obviously, doing a swimming podcast. But when I would go to meets, ACCs or NCAAs, you would always go out of your way to come and say hi to me and how much you appreciated that I was there. And, you know, I remember I told my husband, I said, Todd just hugged me. That just makes me feel so good. So I just really, I know, Todd, and you probably don't even remember it, but it's your treatment of people from, you know, I wasn't in the pool scoring points for your team, but it's just the type of person you are. And I just, you know, I'm sure everybody has a 7th degree of Todd DeSorbo's story because the swimming world's pretty small, but I know, is your head getting too big, Todd?
Well,
so, yeah,
it's funny to hear you say all that stuff because I don't consider myself in that way, but I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, so then I have to ask the question because one of the things we're kind of known for is we do a lot of research before we do interviews. So I watched your UVA recruiting video, which is really slick, but I mean, you know, we're going to have a lot of NC State listeners to the show. We're going to have a lot of UVA listeners, but we're going to have a lot of NC State listeners. Why are you wearing an NC State shirt in your UVA recruiting video?
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that was going to be posted out there for everybody to see. So, I will say that, I had a blast when I was at NC State. It was a great experience. I loved working with Braden. We had a lot of fun together. I learned a lot. Wouldn't change it for the world. And so when I got here, back in the day, the rivalry used to be UVA-UNC. UVA and UNC used to be the top teams in the conference for years and years and years, long before I was probably even coaching. And in the latter few years of my time at NC State, we at NC State changed that to a UVA-NC State rivalry because UVA continued to be very good in the conference and at the highest levels. And NC State kind of took over as, that big challenger especially on the men's side, the team, we became the team to beat. So, the year before I came to Virginia, the Virginia women had won 9 ACC championships in a row. And so the year they were trying to go for their 10th in a row, and that's a big deal, right? To win 10 conference titles in a row.
It's huge.
That was the year, my last year at NC State, when our women actually upset Virginia. So NC State's women won. So Virginia's streak was snapped at 9. And then I left and came here. And so, that rivalry was there and it was born. And so I think that video was taken the week of our dual meet against NC State. And so something we used to do at NC State all the time is, and I kind of spearheaded this, I would wear a UNC shirt the week of the UNC meet, or I'd wear a Virginia shirt the week of the Virginia meet, just to get the team hyped up and excited about the meet. And so I happened to have a lot of NC State gear, right? Because I was there for 6 years. So that was one day where I was wearing an NC State shirt to try to get the team pumped up. And I knew they were taking a video, and I was like, you know what? I'll leave it on. What the heck? So yes. So I'm wearing an NC State shirt in a UVA video that is posted all over the place.
This is a great entree to a question that was going to come up later anyway. This idea of pumping up your team, like I read that you, before a meet, you have strobe lights and music and everybody dances, and then then you give them, or you or one of the other coaches pumps them up. And tell me about why you think that's important, and is that something that you learned from something else, or is a personal thing, this idea of getting your swimmers kind of riled up emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I like to get riled up and get hyped up and get excited, and I don't want to be bored, and I don't want the team to be bored, and so I think just, swimming is a sport that's not like a lot of other team sports like basketball. You have the intro at the beginning of the game, they're exciting and they're fun, and everybody's getting crazy and excited, and so try to, just incorporate some of that into the swimming world to make it fun, because swimming is hard, right? It's a hard sport. We say this all the time. You don't play swimming.
That is a great expression.
Oh my gosh, that's a great expression.
Yeah. So, anything we can do to make it fun and exciting and different and interesting, we're going to do it. And I don't know how that started here, if that was going on before I got here, or if it was something, I feel like it kind of started when we got here, and some of the guys our first year just started bringing a massive speaker into the room, and then they had a strobe light at their house. They brought that, and the music is just blasting. And I actually like it because I'm kind of, I am in the moment type of speaker. If I plan stuff too much, it doesn't usually go really all that well. And so that situation, the music's blasting up until probably 1 minute before we run out, and then they cut the music off, and I say like 30 seconds worth of words, and I don't even know what I say half the time, and they just go crazy, and then they run out. And so
that's so great.
But I think it's really important. I think it's a great, if you ask our kids, if recruits ask our current team, what do you love about swim meets? Every one of them will say, we love the hype up room before, the dance party before we go out and race. They love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So just give us a kind of a quick overview. We don't want to be repetitive on things that, you've already answered, but how has the pandemic been for you kind of recently and your life in general, just for being a coach and being a dad and being a human on planet Earth?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody's lives are, turned upside down in the last 8 months or so. It was for probably 3 or 4 months from March until June, I wasn't coaching at all. So that was, totally different. I think I was working more every day than I was, than I ever have really without actually stepping foot on a pool deck, because it was just constant keeping in touch with the team. On top of that, we were recruiting, Zooms with the team, talking one-on-one individually with the team, we turned into more motivational coaches than anything, and just trying to keep people motivated, keep people excited, keep people to, trying to stay in shape, helping people find pools, helping people find dry land equipment and weight room equipment. It was a long summer. Once we were able to get back on the pool, the kids were able to get back in the pool probably mid-June. It was a little bit back to normal, but we weren't necessarily coaching them at that point. It was just like, hey, here's a pool, here's a lane, here's a workout, go for it. At least in mid-June, we got to start recruiting. So that made my life a little bit more normal. So I was, doing a lot of recruiting. And then, we didn't start practice until early September. So then things have slowly but surely turned back into somewhat normal, although it's not still, because, we're swimming limited people per lane, limiting our dry land, limiting our weight room. So it's still really different, but becoming a little bit more normal. And I think at this point it's a new normal. So it is normal now. But it's definitely been a challenge. Personally, I'm home way more than I ever was before, because I'm home all day, every day. I go to practice in the morning and then I come home, and it's not because we can't be in the office, but there's no reason for me to be in the office. I don't have any in-person meetings. I'm not having athletes stopping by to meet or chat, and the rest of the staff, I just tell them, like, if you can get your work home you can work more comfortably from home, not having to wear a mask, and you can get everything you need to get done at home, then let's just stay home and we'll come in when we need to. So the world is different. My kids are obviously at home doing virtual school. So, I'm probably wearing a couple of hats every day, helping them a little bit, although my wife is taking care of the bulk of that. But life is definitely different now, more challenging. But, I told our team, this year is going to be very challenging, but with challenges there's more excitement, there's more, entertainment, there's, a challenge is fun to try to overcome. So we got to look at it that way.
How are you balancing? And Maria, I'm going to hit these swimming questions in the front, and then you can just, I just want this one more question. How are you balancing, Todd, the possibility that the season won't happen? So if, I think this is a question that anybody would like to hear. People planning a wedding, people planning a marathon, people planning an Ironman, whatever. So you're out there training, it may or may not happen. And a little bit in that, can you address maybe your disappointment and patience with missing NCAAs last year?
Yeah. I think with the uncertainty of the season, motivation is probably the biggest factor that you have to overcome, and keeping the kids motivated, especially your seniors, right? Because for them, if they don't have an end of season, then why are they doing all this right now? So trying to keep the team motivated and excited. We've done a lot of things before we were able to start competing, which was late October. We were doing a lot of things in practices. We had inter-squad competitions just to spice it up and keep it exciting and different. We're only swimming once a day. We haven't done a double this entire year yet. Which normally we're swimming 9 times a week. We're lifting weights. We're doing dry land. We're doing 2-a-days, 3 days a week. We haven't swum twice in a day yet. A lot of the reason was because of the uncertainty. I'd hate to, we have this, normally October, we call it Rocktober. Like, we kill them. We train hard. We're training a lot. We didn't do that this year because, I'd hate to have gone through that and then the season get canceled. So we're definitely progressing as if we are going to have a championship season. Our football coach, Bronco, said it really well at the beginning of the football season before they started having games. They're going to train. It's like the military, right? And being a Navy SEAL, you have to be ready. You have to be ready. You may never get the green light. You may never get called on to your mission, but you have to be ready for it. So, we kind of took that approach as well. Like, you can't plan for the season to not happen. You have to plan for the season to happen. And so we've been doing that while also trying to balance the mental health side of things, the motivational side of things. Only having to swim once a day they can be way more motivated to get through one practice and give it their all and train at a really high level once per day compared to twice per day. And they have been training. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We've had some of the best workouts since I've been here. You know, even if they don't have quite maybe the motivation that they normally have in a season, I think they do. I think the motivation's there and they're doing a good job, but it's been challenging. So we've been trying to do some things to, you know, make the season a little bit it's a different season, so we're approaching it differently. Even if we do have a championship season, it's still going to be different than it normally is, because some teams, even ours, we're without our full team. Other teams are without their full teams. The Pac-12 just started competing. The Big Ten doesn't compete until after the new year. It's just different. So we're approaching it differently. We've adjusted to the situation, which I think you have to do. And if you don't, it's going to be a real long year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, the season being canceled early last year was pretty hard on our team, certainly, especially the women. You know, and I think the reason why it was really difficult for our women was because, you know, the women, the talk has been moving towards winning a national championship or putting ourselves in a position to contend for a national title. And the talk all along, internally and externally throughout the year last year, was next year is going to be the year. 2021 is going to be the year we can really win. We're going to have a lot of great returners. We're going to have a lot of, you know, really good incoming freshman class. We're going to be set up to win it, you know, next year, which is now this year, 2021. And so the expectation wasn't for us to win one this year or last year, which, you know, 2020. However, throughout the season, and especially once we got through ACCs in February, their confidence just was at an all-time high, and they were excited because now it wasn't, we can win this next year. It was, we can win it this year. And the fact that, you know, that got taken away was pretty hard on them. And especially because Virginia's never won a national title in swimming and diving. Nobody in our conference has ever won, men or women, has ever won a national title in swimming or diving. So it would have been a first on all kinds of levels. So it was really hard on our women, especially, and our men, you know, I think like everybody in the country, everybody took it, you know, pretty hard, but it hit the women, probably, I would think, harder than most as a combined team, as a whole team, you know, because I think seniors all over the country, you know, it hit them really hard because they didn't get their last year, or their last NCAAs. But I think as a whole, our women, it hit them pretty hard.
What did you say to them? How did you encourage them?
I mean, you know, it was all such a whirlwind that day when it all went down, and it all happened so quickly, you know, within a 3-day window. It was like, we're going, I don't know if we're going, we're not going, you know, and that day it was like, we had a practice scheduled for 3:00 that afternoon. And I was walking out of the athletic department at 2:30 and got the phone call. I was on my way over to the pool. And so rather than have practice, we had a team meeting, and it was like a 15 or 20-minute team meeting. And I just didn't have, I didn't know what to say. I didn't have much to say, you know, at that point, you know, other than, here's the situation, you know, you guys had a great year, you know, it was hard, you know, and we probably, weeks went by before we went back to addressing, you know, and thinking about it, you know, because at that point I didn't want them to think about it anymore. Just take some time off and get away, and, you know, we'll come back to this later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I read, you know, I'm not surprised in talking to you that you put so much, you know, emphasis on relationships and fun, because that's, you know, that's what I've been reading about you. But one of the things that I read was that you you have this expression all day, meaning, I suppose that, well, you can explain what it means. And then there's another one, reckless abandon. I'd like you to explain those, and then I'd like you to talk about how you can apply those to this difficult time after COVID and during COVID.
Yeah. The all day motto, it was from my first year here, and I actually have a huge sign in my office that says all day. It's plastered on the wall, and it's just about carrying yourself like a champion in everything that you do all day. You know, I firmly believed before coming to Virginia that Virginia was a type of program, the type of university that attracts the type of athletes that can be championship level athletes and can contend for NCAA titles and Olympic berths. But I firmly believe that you have to carry yourself like a champion first in everything that you do before you can actually become a champion. So, we have that motto that you act like a champion all day, every day, in everything that you do. So that's related to the classroom, that's related to your training in the pool, in the weight room, in the dry land, and that's related to your social life and the community and everything that you do. So it's not about the 2 hours or the 4 hours a day you're with the team and in practice. It's a lot more about the other 20 hours of the day that you're not with us. What you do when you're not, when we're not watching you is significantly more important than what you're doing while we're watching you. Because I can hold you accountable. That's easy. And I can make you work hard, or I can motivate you to work hard. But can you continue to be motivated to do those things once you leave the pool? So, that's kind of our mentality and motto just broadly, for the team. Reckless abandon, was that the other one?
Yeah.
So Kelly will like this. Those words are actually David Fox's words. And David Fox was a NCAA champion at NC State, sprinter. He was an Olympic gold medalist. And there's actually two more words that go along with that I use as well sometimes. Relentless effort. And those are that he had sent me a text message years and years ago while I was coaching at NC State about one of the individuals on the team that I was coaching. And the reckless abandon was like, you just train with reckless abandon. You basically run through a wall. And I use that wording a lot with my team as well. Like, I want you to run through a wall for me. I need you to run through a wall for me and then get up and do it again, and then get up and do it again. That's the way we practice. We practice with a reckless abandon. I coach, I'm a more low volume, high intensity type of coach. And the athletes that will perform the best for me are those who will run through a wall for me 30 times in a practice, and get back and keep doing it. That's reckless abandon, and just pushing off and not caring about how bad something's going to hurt, or that you might throw up at the end of it, or being embarrassed because you might die. You just gotta let it go and let it rip. And then the relentless effort, which you didn't ask about, but that kind of goes along with it, because when I use reckless abandon, I also say you start with reckless abandon, you have to end with relentless effort, because
that's so true.
Because if you go reckless abandon, at some point you are going to actually hit a wall and not be able to go. And then you've got to have relentless effort to be able to continue through the rest of the practice or the rest of the race, or whatever it might be, swimming or life. So those two things kind of go hand in hand.
I love that. How have you applied that to your career in life?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm pretty much reckless in everything I do. I think I'm a loose cannon. That's no, I think Kelly mentioned this in the intro. I don't know, how I ended up where I am today, or how the team ended up where we are today, or how NC State ended up where they were, and while I was there, and obviously they're still doing really well. I look at life just in general and really everything I do. And I try to pass this along to our kids too, that the team is, to me, if you just work really hard, and then you're also just a good person, good things are going to happen. Like if you work really hard and you treat people well and you're a good person, and everybody makes mistakes, right? But if you, for the most part, do things, that you feel like are the right things to do, then good things are really going to happen. Now I don't think you can do one or the other, right? The nice guy never wins, right? Isn't there a saying that says the nice guy never wins? But if you're working really hard, on top of that, but on the flip side of it, if you work really hard, but you're not a good person, then good things aren't going to happen that way either. So I think you have to have both.
Yeah, I would say, Todd,
answer.
one of the things that you did, obviously consistently well at NC State and now at UVA is I think you have a relentless effort in your recruiting, your coaching, your staff. I think you are epitomizing and role modeling relentless effort. So I remember when you first got the job in 2017, we were devastated to lose you, but I just thought, Todd's not going to sleep for like a month. I just felt like you were just like,
I haven't slept in 3 years.
Yeah, there you go.
My wife will tell you that it's definitely relentless effort from that perspective, and I would agree from a recruiting, that probably should start using that with our recruits. I oftentimes tell recruits we're really aggressive recruiters, but we're not but sometimes it's hard to explain that. So it's more like relentless effort. Like we're going to keep trying and trying and trying, and we're just going to try really hard, and not give up.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing we'd love to talk with you about is pressure. When you're now the head coach at UVA, you are vying for an NCAA title. You've got to have some pressure on you. You put it out there, and all swimmers, whether they're in the little junior Olympics and they're seeded first, or they're at the NCAA finals or the Olympic trials finals, give us some advice on dealing with pressure.
Yeah. I don't think about it personally, and I try to have the athletes not think about it as well. Although I know that's really hard. It's easier said than done. But at least for me, I haven't, and most of the athletes that I've coached, I haven't been in the situation personally or with athletes where, where the pressure is on us, because I've kind of always been in the situation that, that I have nothing to lose. And that athletes I have coached have had nothing to lose. And I think that's a fortunate position to be in. And I'm hopeful that I won't always be in that position, because if I'm always in that position, that means I've never done anything, or athletes that I've coached have never done anything. Because at some point, if you start winning national titles and you start putting people on Olympic teams, then I think the pressure is there. Then the expectations are there, and then you do have something to lose, right? I tell our girls, Stanford's women have won 3 NCAA championships in a row. They've won, I don't know how many outside of that, quite a bit. They've got a lot more to lose than we do. If we get second, that's still really good for us, and we weren't necessarily expected to win. Whereas if they get second, it's that to them isn't very good because they've won. So they have a lot more to lose. And so that's kind of the approach that I've taken all the way to this point, and I'll continue to take until we get to the point where the target's on our back a little bit more. And so, and from a coaching perspective, as well as in individual one-on-one with athletes, that's kind of where I've been and where I am right now, I still think. And so that takes a little bit of pressure off. And maybe I'm not, maybe other people would say, you're crazy. You are there. The pressure is on you. The expectation is on you, but I don't feel that way. And I think because I don't, our kids don't. So we've got kids who can probably make the Olympic team. We've got kids who can win national titles. We have a team that can win a national championship, but their approach right now is they have a chip on their shoulder. They're just trying to prove themselves and work hard and be good people. And so those good things will happen to them. And so maybe my approach will change when maybe we have reached the top. And because I think it's harder. I think it's hard, but in different ways. It's hard to get to the top, but I think it's harder to stay at the top once you're there. And you're going to get knocked down, and you got to figure out how to get back up and regain that. And there's been some teams who have done that really well, over the past few years. But I'm just having fun for now. I don't feel any pressure. I've never felt any pressure. I just am excited and fun, and it's fun, and so it's to me, it's just been a good time. And I hope that our athletes see that and they're like, yeah, let's just have fun.
Yeah. So that's a great way to handle pressure. Just have fun. Yeah. That's beautiful. Do you find there are differences, or what differences do you find in coaching men and women?
Women are a lot tougher than the men.
Wow. He just said it.
Yeah. I love it.
And
yeah.
Tell us more.
Every team I've ever been a part of, UNC Wilmington, NC State, before here now Virginia, we've all trained, the men and women are combined. They train at the same time. They train together. They do the same work. So I don't really, I don't approach coaching very differently with them from a physical perspective. I think from a mental, psychological, motivational perspective, it's really different. But I don't want to say that it's different. The women are really different than the men, or the men are really different from the women. It's every individual is really different. And so I could have a guy and a girl that are exactly the same, and they're going to be motivated the same way, but they're entirely different motivated than these other people. So, I think that just figuring out your athletes and having a relationship with each athlete individually is going to tell you how you need to coach them and what you need to say to them, and what you shouldn't say to them is probably more important than what you actually do say to them. So, that's, Braden and I, in NC State used to talk about this all the time, right? There's an art to coaching. It's not about throwing a piece of paper. Like, the workout itself is maybe half of getting somebody to swim fast. It's, presenting the workout has a lot to do with it, how to motivate them to work hard during that workout, and then, as I mentioned earlier, how to motivate them to continue to work hard, and think about their swimming career once they leave the pool and go to bed that night. What time are you going to bed? What are you eating? What are you drinking? How are you recovering? All that stuff. So, I don't necessarily know that it's a lot different by gender, but it's a lot different by individuals, even within the genders. So, I don't know that there's one thing I could say that, well, women are this way and men are this way. It's just, there's so many different individuals, so many different personalities, nothing's cookie cutter, nothing is one size fits all. That's the challenge of it. And that's the fun of it. I've got 15 swimmers in my group right now, and every one of them is really, and 7 girls and 8 guys, and they're all really, really different. And so to motivate them, to get them excited, to, whatever, day to day, to get them out of a funk, to get them go fast, whatever, it's really different per person.
Yeah, you've said, again and again about having relationships and building this. So just practically, from a person who's not a swimmer, what does that look like in terms of, do you regularly Zoom with your individual swimmers, or how do you build that relationship?
Zoom. Well, the recruiting process now lends to that a lot more than it used to. And I think that's one of the advantages and benefits to those recruiting process in swimming and diving has been sped up in the last probably 2 years. It's been sped up. So now we're allowed to recruit high school juniors. We can start recruiting them the summer before their junior year. So we, for example, we've got commitments already for the class of 2022. High school graduating class of 2022. So they've committed here almost 2 years before they're actually going to step foot on, campus their freshman year. So we have 2 years to build a relationship with them. So I think that is, it used to be you couldn't start recruiting them until before their senior year. So we have an extra year now. I think that plays, at least for me now, is playing a huge role in, having that relationship before our kids before they even get here, and then once they get here, we can really hit the ground running. And obviously once they're here and you're interacting with them every day is different, but you get a good sense, and a good feel about the type of person they are, what motivates them. You can talk to their coaches, so that's really helpful. Now, this year is really different, because previously we could hang, hey, come by the pool 20 minutes early and let's talk. Hey, hang out 15 minutes after practice and let's talk. None of that's happening anymore, right? Like you're minimizing all possible contact. So, like we are, I have Zoom meetings with the team. I think I've gone through 2 cycles of meeting with every individual on the team so far this season. I've got my staff meeting with the kids one-on-one. I have them on a rotation. So I don't know if our kids know this, but I have like basically, each coach, there's 5 of us full-time coaches. Each coach, he takes 10 people a week. Hey, you need to connect with them this week, find out how they're doing, check in on them, and then send me notes. Because I need help, right? I can't get to 60 kids every week. So my staff is an extension of me, and they do a really good job. And let me back up by saying none of this, you're talking about me and what I've done, but none of this happens without everything else that's going on, right? Like I can't do it all myself. So I've got a really good staff that does a fantastic job. And, they are really good extensions of me, and they're all different and they have different personalities. And I'm only coaching a quarter of the team, they're coaching the rest of the team. But they're also staying in tune with what even athletes in my group, because, I got a lot going on. as a head coach, and my head's not always with, what's going on in their lives every single day. So I lean on my assistant coaches to find that stuff out for me too.
Hey,
So,
go ahead, Kelsey.
would you have any good stories or any stories on somebody defying the odds, or just on your way to, all the experience you have in swimming? Can you think of any fun stories that help get you here, or that we would enjoy hearing?
Are you talking about like specific athlete performance type things, or just anything?
Anything that sticks out to you, something you were laughing about on the deck, or some swimmer that just did something that really stuck with you. Just
yeah,
any story.
Well, so yes, I mean, I've got a lot probably. And
I bet you do.
I probably can't think of all of them, but one that really sticks out to me is, and this helped me learn how to, again, like, as I mentioned earlier, like, coaching is more of an art, right? It's not about being able to write a workout. And I learned that really early on this is when I was at UNC Wilmington coaching. And I think it might've been my first year coaching. So first of all, I didn't really have any coaching experience when I started coaching at UNC Wilmington. I coached a club team for 1 year, and it just happened to fall in my lap that job opened up, and it was just a perfect storm. So I got the job. And I was a 400 IMer growing up in college. So I was thrown into coaching a sprint group. So I'd never coached sprinters before. I'd never done a sprint workout in my life before. So I didn't know anything. But I had one female athlete who I didn't recruit. So she showed up the same time I showed up. She was a freshman, my first year coaching college, but she was highly touted. She was one of the best. She was probably the best swimmer UNCW had ever gotten on the female side, coming out of high school. And probably within the first month or two, I was coaching her, and I yelled at her. She did something. I think she took a breath when she wasn't supposed to be breathing. And I yelled at her, and I wasn't like being harsh or trying to be really mean, but I yelled at her. I got on her pretty bad about taking this breath where she wasn't supposed to. And she stopped. She just stopped and got out and walks over to me. And I'm like, I'm starting to fume, because she's not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Now she's getting out. And I'm like, what is going on? So she comes over to me and she's like, Todd, I'm going to tell you that I really like you and I really like swimming for you. But if you yell at me, that's going to make things worse. I'm just not going to want to do anything you want me to do. Doesn't motivate me. I don't like it. I was like, okay. And I was like 25, 26. I was pretty young and not that much older than them, And I was like, I did not know what to think of that moment, and I didn't know what to say. And I was just like, okay. Anyway, I learned from that, everybody, you can't coach everybody the same way. Like, I probably could have yelled at a guy and they would never not breathe again. Whereas I found out with her, and there's probably a lot of people like her, she was just going to shut down and not want to do anything I asked her to do. So that was a defining moment for me, just learning how to coach, personalities and motivate, just to realize that, okay, this isn't just about giving them a workout. That was big for me. And I've taken that, with me for years now. And that was my first year. Now that was 2006 or 2007. So it was a while ago.
That's a great story.
Yeah. I had another learning moment. I coached, that person's name was Caitlin Kersteyer, by the way. And she ended up qualifying for NCAAs in her career. She was the first female at UNC Wilmington to ever qualify for NCAAs.
Nice.
So thankfully I didn't run her off and have her quit on me. We figured each other out. When I was at NC State, another kind of learning moment for me was I was coaching Simonas Bilis, who he was a Lithuanian. He ended up, making the Olympics 2016, made the Olympic final in the 50 free.
Wow.
He was NC State record holder in several events. He had a really successful career, but he drove me nuts. And he knows it. And we still talk today. He's a pro swimmer living in Europe and still doing really good. And we talk quite a bit, but he drove me nuts. And it was just wild because I don't really know. I don't know why, but we butted heads multiple times per week. And he would work hard. It wasn't about him. He would work hard. He kind of did what I wanted him to do, but he just sometimes threw attitude. And it just really irked me. And so we got in like shouting matches on the pool deck.
Wow.
But anyway, that was one I couldn't figure out. So on my own, and I actually went to our sports psychologist at NC State and was like, I need to talk to you about this kid. I was so fired up and mad. I was like, this kid gets me so mad in the middle of practice. And I realized that it took me away from the other kids in the pool. So if I had 15 kids I was coaching, I was so mad at him. I wasn't giving the other kids what they needed. I would like kick the whole group out of practice because of one person. Mm. Like that's how bad it was. And I was like, I don't want to coach anybody. You can all leave. And anyway, went to talk to sports psych about it. And so anyway, I learned a lot from that. I had one meeting with sports psych and I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. And just learned, learned how she kind of taught me how the brain works and why it does those types of things. Anyway, that was huge too, because I was able to figure out how to not get so mad, but also not take away from the other kids. That was a pretty, big defining moment in my career as well. And something I've taken forward, because kids don't always do what you want them to do, and that's never going to change, then it's hard to have a great attitude every day and it's hard to work hard every day. And so, figuring, just being able to manage myself as a coach too is important as well.
That's a great lesson. Even you saying it so humble, but yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. And, and those successes that like, him being successful, Caitlin being successful after having those types of situations pop up are, to me, what makes me more proud is from my accomplishments of having coached an Olympic gold medalist or an NCAA champion or whatever, the things I'm most proud of are getting through things like that. Helping somebody overcome something, or, it's not necessarily about like, somebody making the Olympic team or winning an Olympic gold medal was my crowning achievement. To me, it's more like, it's these things that nobody ever saw that I'm more proud of having figured out. And it's not only me, right? It's the athlete figuring it out too and helping them figure it out. Those are the things that are, to me, I think the coolest, because those are the things that are going to help me, 10 years from now, but also they're going to help them 10 years from now or 20 years from now, when they're long, done swimming.
Yes. Love that. I love that. And I didn't even know this, Todd, that I somehow missed that you were a 400 IMer and now you're a premier sprint coach. So I love that, many coaches were swimmers and they usually coach what they swam. But how did just real quick, how did you get into being such a sprint coach after swimming distance yourself?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm, whatever success that I've had, I think a lot of what I can attribute any success I've had as a sprint coach to the fact that I wasn't a sprinter, growing up and in college. So I got started coaching sprint because that's what they needed. They were hiring a sprint coach. And, I was coaching a club and I was coaching master swimming and I was coaching triathletes. And I was also a CPA. I worked for Deloitte & Touche. And at the same time, I was doing all that. I was probably working 100-hour weeks between coaching the club and doing tax consulting work. And the head coach at UNCW, I happened to be in his office, basically telling him what I was doing with my life. And he was like, well, what do you really want to do? And I was like, well, I think I want to be a college swim coach. And he said, well, at the end of the season, my sprint coach is retiring. If you want the job, it's yours. And so I did another year of the tax consulting and the coaching and all the stuff on the side. And then as soon as that year ended, that coach retired, I quit everything and went to coach college. And so it just happened to be a sprint job. And so Coach Dave Allen, who was the head coach at UNCW, gave me David Marsh's videos on sprint coaching, sprinting. He gave me Sam Freese's book on sprinting. There might've been, I think he gave me some stuff on Dave Salo. And so I mushed it all together and just kind of was like, okay, I'm not Dave Salo. I'm not David Marsh. I'm not Sam Freese, but I'm going to take what I like out of all those things and just mesh it with my personality and let's go. And so I learned a lot in that first year, especially. And so that's kind of how I got thrown into sprint coaching. And I just, you
did it with reckless abandon.
Reckless abandon. And
I love it.
Yeah. And, the rest is history. But I do think that, a lot of the reason, I don't I think a lot of coaches who say a sprint coach who was a sprinter or a distance coach who was a distance swimmer, they are going to base a lot of their coaching on the way they were coached, right? Because that's what they know. And it may or it may not, but I feel like it may keep them a little bit closed-minded. You know, it may hinder their willingness to learn and do things differently. Because, hey, if this worked for me, it's going to work for them, which is not the case, right? Especially 20 years later when you're dealing with people are different now than they were 20 years ago. So, you know, I think that the fact that I wasn't a sprinter and didn't do sprint practices and wasn't coached by a sprint coach, I had to learn it all, and I had to figure things out myself, and I had to experiment with things, and I still am. I'm still learning. I'm definitely still learning. I'm definitely still experimenting, and I think that that's, you know, been beneficial because you evolve with the times, right? I hope to never be considered an old school coach. That's like one of my goals. I don't want to be ever considered old school. You know, I don't necessarily need to be considered new school or innovative or anything like that, but I'd like to try to stay up with the times at some level.
That's awesome, Todd. I know we've got to respect your time. If you have time for it, we have something we call the sprinter round, which we would love for you. It's just a bunch of fun little stupid questions, but it gets our listeners to know you a little better. Do you have time for that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. But before we ask that, is there anything that we have not asked you as the last question that you would like to share with us?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I can't think of anything. I've enjoyed this.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So these are just silly, fun questions, and it'll be interesting to see how you answer. So, okay, one word answer: cat or dog?
Dog.
Red or blue?
Blue.
Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Oh,
Kickboard or no kickboard?
Kickboard for sure.
Mountains or beach?
Oh, see, that's a hard one. I had to go with beach, but now that I live near the mountains, I'm moving more towards mountains, but beach.
Love it. Okay, football or baseball?
Football.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone all day.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Okay, Maria, your turn.
Mine are just real short answers. Your favorite color? Oh, we already asked that, but try again. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
And second favorite color is orange?
Black.
Oh, black. Okay.
No, I love black.
Favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
Favorite vegetable?
Oh, spinach.
Oh, good.
Oh,
nice.
nice.
I like it. Your favorite swim complex? I think I know the answer to that one.
Oh, complex. Huh.
Yeah.
What would be my favorite swim complex? I don't know. I guess I'll have to say UVA.
Right.
It's a beautiful one.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about the music. Do you have a certain like pump up song that works for you?
You know, it's funny. So this morning at practice, I had 90s hip hop and R&B on, which is when I was in high school, right? And the kids, most of the kids weren't even born then now, right? They're born in like 2000, 99 maybe.
Right.
So every song that comes on, I'm like, do you know who sings this? Who sings this? And none of them knew, you know. But I would say that my pump up song from high school is probably still the song. I love it every time it comes on, and I love it that it comes on this station. But it's Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Good Vibrations. Love it.
Oh, that's a great song.
That's great. That's a great answer. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister and then a younger sister and younger brother.
Oh, okay. And you have 2 kids. We know that. And
Yep.
your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, Han Solo, hands down.
Okay. Can you cook?
I can cook, but I have to be told what to cook.
I like that.
You're a good husband. Good husband, Todd.
This is one we ask, the younger athletes, but I think it's appropriate for you too. What word comes to mind most when you dive in the water? Like if you're really wanting to go hard.
Oh, see, I don't dive in the water ever. I don't dive in the water ever anymore.
How about this, Todd? What word do you want going through your swimmers' minds when they dive in the water?
I would say either reckless abandon or intestinal fortitude.
I like that.
I love it.
One
love
of
it.
our girls, Ella Nelson, she's a sophomore this year, 400 IMer. She was swimming the 400 IM at nationals in the summer before her freshman year. So this was a little over a year ago. And she was like, she's helped me with the 400 IM. She was scared of it. And I told her, you got to have intestinal fortitude. And she had no idea what that was. And I said, Google it. And anyway, her coach asked me what I told her because she had a great swim. So anyway, now every time she swims the 400 IM, before she swims it, she comes up to me and she says that.
Intestinal fortitude.
I love it. I love it. Those are just great answers.
Oh,
Wow.
what a fun interview this has been. Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to really be cheering for you and just wishing you all the best for this coming year, for everything.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I had fun too. You guys made this a lot of fun.
Well, thanks a lot.
Todd.
We'll see you on a pool deck somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Todd. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Takeaways. We've heard from you that your favorite section of our podcast is the takeaways. Thank you so much for that feedback. But before we get to the takeaways today, we wanted to ask you if you would please give us a 5-star review. That way, more people will be able to find our podcast. Also, if you could subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, you'll never miss a podcast episode if you subscribe. And please share our podcast with your friends. And now, the takeaways.
All right, Maria. Wow. It's so great to see Todd doing so well, and what a fun interview, and just chock full of great takeaways. Of course, we only do 2 each. So let's dive right in. What was your first takeaway from that great interview with Todd?
Well, I have to talk about reckless abandon and relentless effort, because we were saying if you hear something and you can start thinking about immediately how you're going to apply it to your life, then this is a really good tidbit. So you and I have joked that relentless effort's no problem for me. That's who I am. I'm relentless effort. But the reckless abandon, like starting, he says, basically you start with reckless abandon and you finish with relentless effort. I love putting those two together, because often I'm fearful when I start a hard effort, just like he talked about, and just saying, okay, I'm going to go at this with reckless abandon, and then I'll just let my own natural relentless effort. So I love those two. I think you can apply it to all of life. So many times we don't start things because we're afraid, and reckless abandon, just do it, and then let your relentless effort help you finish it up.
Right.
So I thought that was a great take home. Yes,
I saw actually the light go on in your head when he said it. So I knew you're related to that. And I love that, because, you're not, a competitive swimmer. You're a great athlete, obviously, but just, we like things to speak to all of our listeners, whether they're swimmers or not. So that was great. My first takeaway was how much fun Todd makes his programs, and that is actually a great tool for peak performance. So when we're having fun, it was another way that he kind of a roundabout way said that he deals with pressure, or that when that pressure comes, hey, let's just have fun. Right. There is no pressure. And if one thinks of, some of your best performances in life, I really look back and I think, that I was having fun, or my team was having fun, or, I saw Tiger Woods hit that hole in one and he was laughing. It's like, I think people do need to put fun into pressure-filled situations, and whether it's, a sports performance, or, me, I'm afraid of hospitals and doctor's visits and all this. And I had a friend who had a horrible, like a terrible abscess tooth that kind of exploded, and she was in excruciating pain, and she actually had to go in for emergency surgery. And I think she had to go into the emergency room, and she said, I just decided I could be scared or I could have fun. And she said when it was rolled into the operating room, she just said she imagined that she was being rolled onto a Broadway stage, and that she was just gonna, and she was laughing. And so I think adding fun and laughter and humor, we just interviewed Dr. Lynette Charity last week, and she talked about using humor, and I think Todd's doing that, and I just love it. So that was my first.
Yeah, I totally agree. I loved his story. Sometimes we can bring fun with music and dancing. We've been doing a lot of that. We moved into a bigger space and we've been just, turning the music up loud and dancing, and that just, it really does take stress off and it makes everything just seem easier. So I think that's a great takeaway. And my second takeaway is about relationships. Of course, this is, a commonality of all successful people. They're good at relationships. They work at it. But what impressed me particularly about Todd was, clearly he was very intentional about learning about his swimmers, learning about, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him about this, but I had read that he was ready for this job. He had a list of staff in his drawer that he was going to contact when he got his head coaching job. So, this is a guy who, and he's doing the show, and you told a great story about, how warm he was with you when you visited at NC State. So, I think this, I don't think he minds it, but I think he's also very deliberate about building relationships. And I think you just cannot emphasize that enough. I was listening to, a self-help guru, and one of the things he said was, when I'm here with you, I want to be here with you completely. And I think that's what Todd does. He gave it to us. It was wonderful.
Yeah. We talk a lot about what commonalities champions share. And this is a thread we see through most of the champions we interview, especially the coaches, that they really value relationships naturally. And, I think about, I was fortunate enough to work for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, which is hopefully going to develop our COVID-19 vaccine. And one of the big trainings that we did in that was that everything we want in life comes through another person. Mm-hmm. So I think I was lucky to learn that. In fact, we were also interviewed recently with Elizabeth Beisel, and I think she asked us, or somebody asked us, how do we get all these good people on our show? And I think a big part of it is that I've maintained relationships with my fellow swim coaches from 1990, people that I met back then. So I think sometimes it's hard, and especially hard in COVID and being, inside a lot, but to stay in touch with people, to think, not just to advance your career, just because it just makes life better to know what other people are doing and how they're doing. So I think that is just a huge one.
It's part of the fun too,
for success.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay.
Yes.
So what's your second takeaway?
So my last one is, using all your resources. And we talk about this, we talk about how important it is to have a coach, but a couple of times in Todd's interview, he referred to one that he was having trouble coaching Simonis Bilis, the great NC State guy sprinter, and, was just getting frustrated every day, getting tied in a knot. And he said he went and talked to the sports psychologist how to deal with it. So, going to another source, and then also, when he started to coach sprinting, he wasn't a sprinter. So he combined everything from David Marsh's stuff. Wish we had a nickel for every time somebody says David Marsh on our show.
Love hearing the name Dave Salo, because I remember that from your youth.
Yeah.
Dave Salo was a guy that you used to talk about.
Yeah, love Dave Salo's stuff too. So he took a lot of resources and then used them. And I think it's sometimes it makes us tough. Oh, we're going to do it on our own. But I think when you reach out, you learn more. It helps the people that you're reaching out to feel good about what they're doing. And so I think that was just a huge takeaway for me, that use all the resources that are out there, because there are tons out there today.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. Well, it was, as you said, it's a fabulous interview and so much there. But
and Maria, I forgive you for going to UVA.
Well, I'm so glad that he's there and going to turn that school into a national team winning.
Of course, and of course, your husband went to UVA, where you met my little brother. So I've always
my son is currently in his post-grad at his medical school. He's now graduated from medical school and he's in his residency there. So.
Right. So we have a current family member at UVA.
Current family member at UVA.
I love it. Did you tell Todd that?
I did before we got on.
Okay, before you got started. Great.
I was telling him all of my links to Charlottesville.
I love it. Maria, thank you so much love you too. Talk with you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Champions Mojo podcast with host Kelly Palace and Maria Parker. Champions Mojo is produced by Cabra Media, and a new episode debuts every Tuesday. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Follow Champions Mojo on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Champions Mojo.